afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Nick Pateras. I serve as Vice President of Strategy at LIFT.V. We are a cannabis, media, and tech company trading on the TSXV under the ticker LIFT. So today I'm going to walk you through a little bit about how we see the world, and specifically the marketing landscape within the cannabis world. So essentially, our underlying market thesis is that cannabis resembles a consumer packaged goods industry. What we mean by that is you have a manufacturer making a product, wrapping that product in a brand, and then passing it on to the retailers who act as the primary access point for consumers. Now, importantly, where the brands play an important educational role in, especially in this category, informing the consumer about what the product is, what its effects are, and how to consume it, that cannot be replicated in cannabis by virtue of very tight advertising restrictions driven by regulations. So, we know that the regulations really hold those three key stakeholders, that is the producers, the retailers, and the consumers at arm's length. And so the pain point that we aim to solve is to allow them to better engage with one another and better understand one another too. This allows us to offer a suite of marketing solutions as well as data insights, again, cross-connecting all of those stakeholders. And so the way we actually do that is across four key streams. If we think about our consumer marketing, we monetize the high level of very engaged traffic we get through our online platform. In our trade marketing focus, we actually put the brands directly in touch with the all-important retail employees, colloquially known as the bud tenders, who we know play a very important role in determining that last mile of the purchase journey. Our data insights, driven through the collection of data of our review platform, allows us to not only have consumers converted into brand evangelists, but collect and aggregate that data and sell it back to our partners so they understand how consumers feel about their consumption experience, as well as how much they bought. We're collecting receipt data now that allows us to marry transactional data with those consumer reviews too. And then lastly, event marketing. So we run the two largest cannabis events in the country. We just had our most recent one in January last month, in Vancouver last month, and then we'll have another at the MTCC here in June. And the idea there is brands really use those events as a launch pad for their brand launches. And so we actually seen a number of the brands spend in excess of 6 figures activating and bringing their brands to life in those forums. And so this is really an example of how we vertically integrate the marketing budget across all the verticals that we offer. I think it's important to note that we work today with 80% of the selling LPs. And the idea is to not just offer marketing solutions that span our own verticals, but also across the value chain itself. So where we work with 80% of the LPs, today we also have relationships monetized with over 15% of the licensed stores. And of course, our real aim is to ensure that consumers feel educated and informed, so they're not just confident about the product that they purchased, but they actually leave the store feeling more knowledgeable so that they can pass that on to their friends and feel more comfortable coming back into the category. When we think about the year that we've just had, we're pretty proud of our growth rates. Most of our businesses have seen triple-digit growth, and we expect that will be sustained and accelerated for the foreseeable future. We feel confident in the fact that our thesis we see not being replicated by many others. We are one of the few, we believe, who actually treats this industry as a consumer packaged goods industry. That is to say, we vertically integrate the marketing spend and really scrape meaningful data across the market. Where some of our closest competitors will have their businesses continue to cannibalized by brands like Google, we're really focused on cannabis-specific data that isn't easily replicable anywhere else. So by way of example, our review platform, for instance, doesn't treat Chardonnay the same no matter what vineyard it comes from. We actually have reviewers detail not just what brand, but what product, and actually down to what batch or lot number as well. We know that insofar as this industry is underpinned by science, eventually we're going to want to map specific cultivars or chemotypes to effects and translate that into digestible, easy to understand information for consumers as they make their purchase decisions. Our trailing 12-month revenue exceeds our last fiscal year, and we anticipate that will continue. We actually have 3 market catalysts coming up that give us that confidence. The first is that we actually have the second launch of a market later this year. October the 17th was a watershed moment in many ways, but really the black market today is made up of 60% of products that are not available legally today. So the concentrates, by that I mean the vape pens, the beverages, the edibles and tinctures, as those come online, we recognize there is a big need to educate consumers on what those even are and how they are consumed, and so we intend on playing an important role there. To the extent that a lot of our business is now very focused on the retailers, as more retailers earn licenses, of course, our addressable market expands. Today we have no stores in Ontario, fewer than 10 in BC and only 12 in Quebec. So as licenses become issued, we'll have our first 25 stores open in Ontario by April the 1st. Our addressable market will grow, and we intend on adding value to all of those clients as well. And then I mentioned the transactional data, the receipt data that we collect, which allows us to tell things like stories around basket size, stories around co-purchasing and shopping patterns, and marry that to the user profile information we have. So we know who the individual is, what they purchased, and then through the review data, how they felt about that purchase. And as they do that time over time, we can actually tell what their long-term engagement with the category is. And we can do profile clustering to establish whether that is true of their entire segmentation, that entire segment as well. I needn't emphasize the opportunity in front of us with regards to cannabis. We are really ripping apart society's social fabric and restitching it. But again, insofar as the regulations hold all of these stakeholders at arm's length, we feel we solve a pretty important pain point by virtue of offering some of the only compliant marketing and promotional tools on the market today. Same thing goes for our data collection and data aggregation tools. There is a dearth of really robust data in this industry at the moment, and so we aim to empower our marketing partners with those insights so they can better build business plans for years 2, 3, and beyond. And we are expanding globally. So in the US, we see an immediate revenue opportunity. We are currently exploring what that might look like, so stay tuned there. And then the European Union is falling like dominoes, really. There are 21 European countries that today have some form of legalized medical cannabis. And the expected projection for that market is $127 billion by 2025. That's in absence of any European country also legalizing for adult use. Today, the European Parliament is considering a draft resolution to implement a framework for all of its member countries, which would essentially enable them to legalize medical cannabis in a standardized way. In doing so, we know that medical is the inevitable precursor to adult use. So again, we think that the market could explode once that framework is in place. We have a fantastic executive team, and I am just wrapping up my 10-minute period, so thank you very much. We are at a booth just near the front here, so please come visit myself or our CFO, Craig, and thanks for being here today.